Well, just to give you a little bit of a story, I used to sail with like 68 was my Hokipa board, and if I went on a 74, that was my competition board, 74 liters, and yeah, and I was a little bit heavier too, and now going into this year, we were doing the photo shoot last week at Hokipa, and I was doing the pictures on a 90 liters, the 89 liters, and a 4.5. So when we say you can ride the board bigger, I really mean it. It's been amazing the change that's been happening over the years to bigger boards, but this year it's really taken it to the next level. There is no other brand out there that it's going with this width on these volumes. What we've done this year is the boards, you're gonna see them, they are thicker, and for years the boards were getting wider and wider because it gives more like the early planing. So what we were feeling, it was that it was really missing the control. When you go onto the turn, you don't have to lay into the turn, you have to think about, okay, I'm gonna turn. And now as the boards got narrower, the boards are a lot more, you just ride them, you just lay into the turns. And so that's of course just the wave line. As the boards progress, they go a little bit wider, like the freeway is a little bit wide, the thruster is a little bit wider, and the freeway, the one is a little bit wider. So don't be scared that now we went too radical. And so now you have the flotation, and all this happened. I went to Maui in the summer, and Keith came out, and he was like flying. It was glassy, and he was on like 4.2, and he came out flying through that. And his board, you could see it was like he got this new thing, like thicker, and it just struck me. I was like, that's a way to keep turning, to keep the people buoyant and with the early planing, and at the same time have them all the control that they want on the wave. So how did we do that? So the other things that we did was the rocker, where we used to have very stagey. We had the 3-stage rocker, and it was very like curved, flat, very little curve. Now we unify the whole curve, and so if you put a straight edge, you'll see it's like very gradual. The difference between here is a little bit of curve, here is a little bit flatter, and here is a little bit more curve. But it's very gradual, where in the previous years, they were so staged up that we had to go flatter. So now we could put a little bit more curve overall, but they have less curve in between the changes. The other thing that we did to keep on the early planing and the speed was the concaves are not as pronounced. So when you get on the boards they feel a little bit more lively. They're not so grippy, and so you're gonna see the concaves a little bit shallower, and you're gonna see you're gonna have the difference. The main difference this year on the bottom is that on the quads you have the concave off the back, the double concave in between your stands, and you have the panel V with double concave through the front. So what
Brausinho rides as well.
Yeah.
He really brought that bottom into the boards.
Yeah.
Into the Goya boards.
So when I got on Brausinho's board, it was like going like bottom turning. I was able to use that panel V and lay into the turn really easy. And I mean, at the beginning when he first told me that this is the bottom I like, I was like, really? We always had it backwards. And we're like, oh, I want the V, the planing, and then I wanted the grip on the bottom turn. And as I tried that, it really changed the whole perspective, and it started working really well. And then I understood how he was able to use smaller fins than I was. And so the board has a lot more grip through the back, and through with the concave and the double concave, and then it has the easy initiation because he rides much bigger boards as well. So the panel B really helps. And so slow me down if I'm going too fast. I'm kind of like touching a little bit
we really
too
worked
much.
on the outlines and like what Francisco's saying about the boards. I think we were just trimming away a lot of the stuff that you just don't need, and making the rockers as efficient as possible, outlines as efficient as possible, flow as efficient as possible, so that you don't need a big wide nose. You don't need the width, say maybe right here. So we're just trying to trim everything so that it's more efficient, and it's just easier to use overall, and you just don't have excess anywhere. And that was kind of the goal for me working with Francisco and Brauzinho.
Yeah.
Just making things efficient.
Yeah. So Keith, it was like his boards are like more pronounced, the narrower nose. So it's for me it was a little bit too radical. And what we tried to do with the Goya line is that it's a little bit more user friendly. I fully inspired by
And
Keith.
he's comparing kind of more to my custom boards.
The custom
His
boards.
production line is
Yeah.
is not as extreme, but my
Yeah.
custom boards are pretty extreme.
So for me, it's like a huge inspiration, like Keith and Ambrosino and how we work on all the things. It's really bringing all those pieces together. And so the boards, you're gonna see the noses from the previous year, they got narrower, and then they got a little bit of a wing, but it's not as pronounced on the tail. You see it over here. You see they have like a little bit of a bump wing. That's as far out on the outline. So when you look at the board, it looks like it has the white point a little bit farther back, although it wasn't. The white point stayed the same. It's just that as we pulled the nose in, made it narrower, it looks like the white point moved back. And so the previous year, the noses were a little bit wider. The width were a little bit wider, and then the tails were narrow. This year, the noses are a little bit narrower. It's narrower through the middle, and then the white point is a little bit back, you could say, and then it has the bump wing, and it has more. What we took off the middle, we added to the volume, to the
And
thickness.
again, in the noses, it's not like at 2 feet that it's a lot narrower. It's more just at 1 foot. It's from 2 feet to the nose. Where you don't, I don't necessarily think you need that excess width. It just adds swing weight. It adds whatever it does. So we just tried to trim it all up. To
As,
make it more efficient.
if you see a surfboard, you're amazed at how narrow they are, the boards. And the reason they make those narrow pointy noses is so they can fit in the wave. So when you go a little bit smaller here, when you're like turning and the whole really catching, and that's why we don't believe in the, like those big wide noses. It's because if you look at pictures from the guys turning, the boards, they're like turning from here. So if you push this line out, that means your nose goes that farther out of the water, and then it doesn't turn around. So that's why we keep the more performance oriented on the nose. This is your early planing. If you take a lot from here, you're gonna feel on your early planing. But if you take from here, you're gonna see how more reactive the board gets and how better it fits in the wave and wherever. Even if you're sailing on shore conditions, you're gonna feel how much easier and less swing you have on the nose.
And basically it makes the board feel smaller than it is as well. If you have a parallel outline, when you're going to bottom turn, it's straight already far forward, it's going to want to drive. So this is less straight, so you kind of set the rail and drive and pivot around it as opposed to driving longer. It's not that those noses don't work, because those kind of boards do work, but they just have different characteristics, and they might not be as quick to turn off the bottom and as snappy. So, everything works in one way or another, but this was something that we put together to make it, for me, these are the best Goya boards yet.
Yeah.
Really.
It's,
Because, and obviously I test them all, and the ease of use and the planing and the turning this year for me is amazing.
Yeah, usually I see when I work with Keith on the development that he's like you kind of like going, and I think this is the time that you really took off on it, and you kind of like.
Well, even Brazinho rode the Thruster the other day for the photo shoot, and he was really impressed with how quick it was planing, how easy it was to turn, and so he had tried the boards before, but you always kind of lose track.
Was that the one?
Jump on it.
The one?
Yeah, the one, the Thruster, yeah.
How can you split between